"Give your sister your penthouse as a wedding gift," my father said into the microphone. His voice was loud and strong, and it echoed under the big, shiny chandeliers. Everyone in the room turned to look. The lights were bright. The room was beautiful. People were dressed in fancy clothes. The music stopped. Even the air seemed to freeze. 20 guests stopped talking right in the middle of their toast. Some people looked surprised. Some people looked confused. Some people looked like they didn't know what to do. My mother didn't stop smiling. Her smile stayed perfect, like she was on a stage. Lysandra blinked, acting like she was surprised. She looked like a princess. She smiled like it was the happiest moment of her life. And me? I stood there holding my glass, feeling like everyone was staring at me. I felt like I was in a spotlight. Someone whispered my name. Then a man I had never seen before stood up from the crowd. He looked calm but serious. He didn't look angry. He looked like he was waiting for the right moment. He said, "If your father touches her things again, he will lose his own." The room went quiet. My father's face stayed still and tense. He didn't know what to say. My mother kept smiling, but her smile looked fake. Lysandra's eyes got big. And I just stood there, feeling like I was trapped in a fish tank, and everyone was watching. Before I tell you the rest, tell me where you are listening from so I know I'm not alone. I used to think that being quiet would keep everything calm. I thought if I smiled at the right time, nodded at the right time, and never let my voice shake, my family would finally accept me. I thought if I didn't cause trouble, they would like me. But peace built on silence breaks quickly, especially in a house like ours. My parents cared a lot about looking perfect. My mother, Vespera, believed that everything could look perfect if it was arranged neatly, like flowers on a table. She believed that if things looked nice, people would think her life was perfect too. My father, Lucien, loved applause and attention. He loved when people praised him. He loved when people clapped. He wanted everyone to think he was important. Lysandra was their favorite daughter. She was their masterpiece. She was the one who could do no wrong. She was soft-spoken and pretty. She looked calm and sweet like a doll. And me? I was the one they didn't talk about much. I was the one they couldn't show off. But they couldn't lose me either. When people asked about my job, my mother would laugh and say, "Leora works somewhere in finance." She never said that I was the vice president of Asia-Pacific Development. She never said that I could move millions of dollars with my signature. She never said that I worked very hard. To my mother, success only mattered if I had a husband. If I was married, then I was successful. Lysandra didn't need to earn anything. She was already perfect. She didn't need to work. She was just beautiful and sweet. She would call me her big sister in front of guests like it was something cute. Like it was something she could use to make herself look nice. I played along for years. I kept pretending everything was okay. I paid for the little things that kept our family looking good. I helped when my father's business deal went wrong. I gave my mother money when she needed it. I even sent $50,000 to help pay for Lysandra's wedding. They never asked me twice. They just accepted it like it was my job. Like it was something I had to do. The week before the wedding, my father pulled me aside. "You'll sit at the front," he said. "Your family, of course. Just remember, it's Lysandra's day. Keep things simple." Simple? I laughed later in my car. He had no idea what simple meant. He didn't know me. I was not simple. At the rehearsal dinner, everything looked perfect. Soft gold lights shone over white roses. Everything was arranged to look beautiful in pictures. My mother fussed over Lysandra's veil. My father shook hands with investors more than family. I stood by the bar unnoticed, invisible again. Then Lysandra smiled sweetly. "I thank you again for helping us with the expenses," she said loudly, so everyone could hear. I felt hurt by the word helping. It sounded like she was doing me a favor. My father nodded like he was proud. That was how they liked it, making me look small in front of others. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. I would just show up, sit quietly, and do my part. One more night. One more performance. I didn't know that my family had planned something behind my back. They wanted to make the sacrifice to make their perfect wedding complete. The morning of the wedding was bright and sunny. The sun made everything look innocent. But something felt wrong. My gut always knew before my mind did. I arrived early at the hotel ballroom. The smell of white lilies was strong in the air. The staff were busy like bees, putting fabric and polishing glasses. Everything looked so clean and perfect. My mother's voice cut through everything. She was sharp and commanding. "Make sure Lysandra's bouquet faces the left side. Her profile photographs are better." It wasn't a request. It was an order. As I walked past the reception table, I noticed a man standing very still, watching. He wore a dark gray suit and a tie with silver flecks. He didn't look like a guest. He looked like someone who was waiting. When his eyes met mine, I froze. He nodded politely, then said quietly, "Be careful what they announce today." His voice was calm, almost kind. Then he turned and disappeared. A chill ran down my spine. For a moment, I wondered if I imagined it. But then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "They'll take what's yours tonight. Don't lose it." The words hit me like a punch. I looked around, but no one was paying attention. My father was laughing near the bar. My mother was fixing Lysandra's train. Guests arrived in waves of perfume and noise. I stepped out into the hallway, heart racing. My penthouse, the one thing that was completely mine. Every payment, every sleepless night, every deal I worked on to build it. It couldn't be taken, could it? Just then, I heard my parents' voices through a half-open door. I shouldn't have stopped, but I did. My father's voice was low and measured. "During the toast, we'll make the announcement. It'll make Lysandra's gift unforgettable." My mother chuckled softly. "And Leora won't dare refuse. Too many cameras, too many witnesses. Pride can be useful." Lysandra's voice came next, hesitant but happy. "Are you sure she'll be okay with it?" My mother's voice was sweet but cruel. "She doesn't need that space. She has her work. You deserve a home." My face went pale. They weren't just proud. They were planning to take what I built and show it off as a gift to Lysandra. I pressed my back against the cold wall, muscles stiff. The chandelier light spilled across the marble floor inside the room, shining on their smiles. I didn't go in. Not yet. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to react. I was going to remember. I went back to my suite without saying a word. The hallway smelled like roses and nervousness. Inside my room, the air felt different, quiet and waiting. I opened the drawer where I kept a folder. Documents. Statements. Payments. Proof that the penthouse belonged to me. Every number, every signature, every piece of paper that showed I owned it. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at them. 10 years of work. My parents didn't build that home. They didn't stay up late. They didn't chase deals that almost broke me. They only knew how to spend what they never earned. I forwarded the documents to my lawyer with one line. "Be ready at 8 p.m. Ballroom A." No explanation. No emotion. Then I changed into a deep navy dress, clean, structured, unshakable. I wasn't going to blend in anymore. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My reflection looked calm, but inside I was ready to fight. I fixed the diamond earrings I once bought to celebrate a big deal. That night, they would remind everyone who I really was. Downstairs, the ballroom was filling up. Glasses clinked. People talked softly. Strings played in the background. Everything was so polished it made me feel sick. I moved through the crowd unnoticed. I heard people gossiping. "Lysandra's wedding is perfect. Such a classy family. Leora looks tense." They had no idea what was about to happen. Lysandra walked by in her glowing gown. "I'm so glad you came," she said sweetly, brushing my arm like we were equals. I almost smiled. Almost. Moments later, my father clapped his hands for attention. "Everyone, please take your seats for the toast." My stomach tightened. It was almost time. I moved to a corner table with the clearest view of the stage. The guests quieted, waiting for my father's big announcement. He adjusted the microphone, scanning the room, pride shining on his face. He was ready. The room was full of people. Everyone was watching. And I was ready too. Because tonight I was not going to be invisible. My mother stood beside him, looking very proud. She looked like she was glowing with happiness, like someone who had just won a big prize. I felt my heart. It was calm. My pulse was steady. It did not race like it usually did when I was nervous. Whatever they were about to do, I was ready. I lifted my glass just a little, enough to hide a tiny smile that was trying to appear. If they wanted a show, they were going to get one, but not the kind they expected. The sound of glasses tapping together echoed across the ballroom. It was 3 quick taps. The taps cut through the music and the talking like a loud little drum beat. My father stood in the middle of the room, right in front of everyone. He held the microphone. His shiny cufflinks sparkled under the bright lights like small stars. Before dinner began, he said with a big smile, "I want to say a few words about family." Everyone stopped talking right away. The room became quiet. People held their forks in the air, frozen. Lysandra stood beside him. Her long white dress flowed behind her like a waterfall. It was beautiful. My mother gently touched her shoulder, acting like she was being loving and kind. But I knew it was just for show. I stayed sitting a few tables away, watching. I already knew what was coming, but I still hoped I was wrong. The human brain always wants to believe something nice instead of something scary. My father's voice got serious. He said, "A family's strength is not about what we keep but what we share." I held my wine glass tighter. The crystal stem pressed into my palm. It felt cold. "And tonight," he continued, looking at everyone, "we have something amazing to celebrate." He paused like he was doing a big surprise. "My eldest daughter, Leora," he said, "has decided to give her sister." The words came out slowly. He wanted to make it dramatic. "Her penthouse as a wedding gift." The words dropped into the room like a heavy stone. The guests started clapping before I could even breathe. I heard gasps, laughter, and some cheers. Someone shouted, "That's amazing." Cameras flashed, trying to catch the moment. Everyone wanted a picture of what they thought was a kind and generous gift. My father had announced it in front of 200 guests. I froze. I could not move. My body felt stuck for 3 long seconds. The air felt heavy. The smell of champagne suddenly seemed sour, like something was wrong. Lysandra covered her mouth with her hand, pretending to be surprised. Her eyes looked wide like a movie actress. My mother smiled like she had won something. My father said warmly, "Leora, come up here. Say a few words." 100 heads turned toward me. Everyone stared. I could feel the heat of their eyes, waiting for me to smile and act happy. They wanted me to look obedient and kind. But I did not want to smile. Instead, I slowly took a sip of wine. The glass trembled only a little in my hand. My father's smile became smaller. He looked confused. "Come on, darling," he said, trying to sound cheerful. "Don't be shy." The music stopped. The room was quiet again. My heart was still beating fast. Then I heard a chair scraping on the marble floor. At the far end of the room, a man stood up. He was the same man from that morning, the one with the silver tie. His voice was calm, low, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Touch your assets again," he said, "and you'll lose yours." The entire room froze. Silence fell so hard it felt like a blanket over everyone. My father's face was drained of color. He looked scared. My mother blinked, unsure whether to be angry or afraid. Lysandra clutched her bouquet and stared at the stranger. The man began walking forward. Each step echoed like a loud sound in a quiet room. "Dorian Vale," he said, pulling a sleek card from his jacket. "CEO of Vale Financial." The murmurs began instantly. People gasped and whispered. Everyone shifted in their seats. My father stumbled back half a step, recognition flashing in his eyes. He knew this man. Dorian continued, "I believe you know my company. We have been working closely with your daughter for 3 years now." He raised an eyebrow. "The penthouse you're trying to claim in this little announcement," he said, "is part of her legal compensation package." He spoke clearly so everyone could understand. "It is protected by anti-coercion clauses under her executive contract." My mother's breath shook. I could hear it from across the room. She reached for my father's arm, whispering something frantic. Dorian's voice never wavered. "What happened here tonight," he said, "was a public attempt at asset seizure. And it is being live-streamed to over 10,000 viewers right now." People turned toward a nearby table. A cousin from the groom's side had his phone propped up, recording. The red recording light glowed like an accusing eye. My father tried to recover his laugh. It sounded forced and brittle. "This is all a misunderstanding," he said. "A family joke, perhaps taken too seriously." Dorian's expression hardened. "A joke that included coercion, public humiliation, and false claims of property transfer," he said. He turned to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "this is what exploitation looks like when it's dressed up as family love." The room erupted into whispers. A few guests stood up. Others stared at me with new eyes. Some looked curious. Some looked ashamed. My father's business partner, Mr. Kester, stood up. His face was pale. "Lucian," he said sharply, "I invested in your company because I believed in your ethics. After this, Kester Industries is suspending all collaboration effective immediately." Then Mrs. Dorians from Logistics spoke up. "Same here," she said. "We don't work with abusers." Finally, Jason Park, my father's oldest associate, added quietly but firmly, "Neither do we." My father's hand gripped the mic stand like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Lysandra was crying now. Soft, confused sobs. But her tears did not look real. They looked like she was acting. "Dad, make it stop," she whispered. But it was already too late. The house of cards had collapsed. I stood slowly. The noise around me dissolved into a low hum. "You wanted a spectacle," I said, voice steady. "You got one." My mother turned toward me. Her expression cracked. Leora, please, she hissed. You're humiliating us. I took a step closer, my heels sharp against the marble. No, Mother, I said. You did that yourself. Dorian handed her the microphone. Perhaps Mrs. Hayes would like to explain her behavior for the record, he said evenly. She shook her head, trembling. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did, I said. The crowd erupted again. Some gasped. Others murmured approval. Phones were raised, capturing every second of my family's unraveling. My father's voice cracked through the chaos. Enough. This is our private matter. I met his eyes. You made it public. The silence that followed was colder than any scream. I didn't need to say more. Dorian placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, guiding me toward the exit. Behind us, my mother's sobs rose. My father shouted something I didn't care to hear. And Lysandra's wedding day turned into a live broadcast of consequence. As the ballroom doors closed, I heard the last sound, a single glass shattering on the floor. Outside, the night air hit my skin like the truth. It was cold and real. I looked up at the city skyline. The lights glittered like tiny stars. I saw my penthouse shining in the distance. For the first time, I felt its walls weren't cages. They were armor. Dorian stopped beside me. Are you all right? He asked quietly. I exhaled. I am now, I said. He nodded. You handled that better than most would, he said. I looked back at the glowing doors of the ballroom. No, I said softly. I just finally stopped apologizing. We stood there for a moment, two strangers bound by justice. Then he offered his card again. When you're ready, he said. I'd like to discuss something bigger. I didn't ask what it was. I already knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of theirs. Behind us, the hall that once celebrated my silence had fallen completely, irreversibly silent. By the next morning, the clip had gone viral. 1 minute of footage. My father's announcement, my mother's slap, Dorian's voice cutting through the chaos, circulated across every platform before sunrise. Headlines called it the wedding scandal that shattered a family. My inbox overflowed with messages from strangers thanking me for standing up. Women who'd been told for years to keep peace at their own expense wrote to say they were proud of me. Meanwhile, the fallout for my parents was swift and brutal. Kester, Dorian's, and Park all withdrew their contracts. The company's stock dropped by half in 48 hours. My father's apology video was dismissed as damage control. My mother went online claiming she'd been manipulated, only to be drowned by thousands of comments calling her out for the slap everyone had seen in crystal clarity. Lysandra's perfect marriage unraveled before it began. Her husband's family backed out, unwilling to attach their name to the wreckage. I stayed silent through it all. I didn't need to defend myself. The truth had already done that for me. When Dorian called to offer me a seat on Vail Financial's board, I said yes. Not for revenge, but for direction. Because for the first time, I was no longer surviving with my family. I was rebuilding myself. Weeks later, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse. The city lights flickered like quiet applause. The same glass walls they tried to take from me now reflected everything I'd earned. Freedom, clarity, peace. On the shelf beside me sat a framed photo of my grandmother. Her handwritten note was beneath it. Don't let them take your light. I smiled. They hadn't. They never would.